This program is a paid commercial announcement and in no way represents the views of WPHT or its management.
Now on Talk Radio 1210, WPHT, WPHT HD, WOGL HD3 Philadelphia. Saturday Night Live with PhillyLabor.
If we don't move in our own direction, we're going to become extinct. In fact, in some cases, we're close to being extinct right now.
Presented by Weinerman Pain and Wellness. Serious doctors for serious injuries. And powered by the law offices of Pond, Lehocky, Stern, Giordano. Talk, listen, and speak to the region's most influential leaders. It's Saturday Night Live with PhillyLabor.
Not close, and Brunson throws it up, and it's nowhere close, and the Wisconsin Badgers have won it. New York City, the Badgers are coming your way.
95 minutes ago, the defending national champions go down to Wisconsin, and Villanova's run for the NCAA championship comes to a close. A good Saturday night, everybody, and welcome to Saturday Night Live with PhillyLabor and John Doherty as we broadcast to you live on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. We're presented by Weinerman Pain and Wellness, serious doctors for serious injuries, and we're powered by Pond, Lehocky, Stern, Giordano, the workers' compensation law firm. In the big chair tonight, in for John Doherty, a Villanova grad who's hurting tonight, who took it right in the heart following that tough loss today up in Buffalo. Frank Keel is in the chair tonight. Frank, welcome into the show tonight, brother.
Thank you. Thank you both, gentlemen.
Watching that Nova game today. And they've been in this spot before.
Yeah.
3 of the last 4 years. They lose this game.
Yep.
Tough game in Wisconsin. Was a tough matchup.
Chris Jenkins really was a disappointment throughout this tournament. As great as he was last year with that miraculous shot to win it all, he just couldn't throw the ball in the ocean in this tournament. Yeah. So it was a great season. It's tough to repeat. I'm still a proud Wildcat. So
a lot of proud Wildcats around the city of Philadelphia and the Delaware Valley. A lot of people tuning in to Saturday Night Live with PhillyLabor as we roll on. J. Doc in the house again tonight. A good Saturday night. J. Doc, how are you, sir?
I feel incredible, and certainly driving in here, you could feel a little bit of the depression in the city with Nova going down. Last year was such a festive atmosphere, and certainly that last second shot that Jenkins hit last year, one of the great shots in the history of the. My wife doesn't watch college basketball, right? Man, we were both like we've been watching every game for the last 10 years. It was incredible, and so it just goes to show you how difficult it is, Krause.
All right. Well, the story ends, or the Cinderella opportunity to repeat as NCAA champions comes to a close. Frank, before we get underway, we've got a big show. Before we line everything up for our listeners tonight, who will be with us for the next 60 minutes here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. There's a reason you're in the chair tonight. I give you that opportunity.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, I mean, I'm delighted to be here, guys. I wish it was under better circumstances. Our dear friend John Doherty is in the midst of a very, very serious family medical crisis right now. I don't want to get into any details to respect the family's privacy, but anybody who knows and loves John Doherty, and there's a lot of people in this city who love John Doherty, please keep him and his family in your thoughts and prayers.
Absolutely. I second that, Frank. All of our prayers going out to the Doherty family. We're with you, and, I know everything's going to come out right. No
doubt. We send our wishes to John Doherty and his family. And in showbiz, as the show must go on, they say, when we come into the world, we know at some point that we're not going to be able to step up to the microphone if you happen to be in this profession, but the show rolls on. We'll do our best in John's absence tonight to deliver Trump moments. We'll do our best to deliver inside baseball. One thing we will not do tonight, which is something that we normally have on the big show, is Doc's last word. We will not have Doc's last word here tonight. But what we will have, and Frank Keel keeps the tradition alive, is every week as we start the broadcast, we sample from around the Delaware Valley. Last week, pastificio, those meatball sandwiches were fantastic. So before we get an opportunity for Frank to tee up what he has brought into the studio tonight, Tony, drum roll, please.
Well, tonight, guys, since St. Patrick's Day is over and nobody wants any more corned beef, we went with Pop's Italian Hoagies from a little place called A Taste of Italy out in Montgomery County near me. But I am proud to say that Local 980's jurisdiction now includes all of Montgomery County, so we're keeping it in the family.
That's a taste of Italy, Pop's Italian Hoagie, and of course our resident food critic J Doc, who doesn't wait to sample the hoagie or the food. He crushes it. He's here to offer his opinion or his thought on the Pop's Italian Hoagie.
I don't even know if I said hello to you guys before I came. I just went right to town. That was incredible, man. It was unbelievable. The long hots, an Italian hoagie was fantastic. I'll tell you, these Local 98 guys do a pretty darn good job of that, man. I'm heading out there. I'm going to be heading out to Montgomery County myself to Pops. It was unbelievable.
We know how to eat well.
Good stuff, Frankie. Thanks very much for bringing that in. Stick around with us and to be a part of the big show. We've got a great show lined up for you coming up here in the opening segment. We await for Councilman Bobby Henon, who's going to check in and kick off our conversation about the Navy Yard, Frank. And let me get you to at least tee us up for a minute. This huge commerce center and business and industry has reached a point where you said in the pre-show warm-up something that hit home when you said it. It's time.
It is, Joe. It's reached critical mass. Just this week, no less a company and an authority than Jefferson Health announced a major new 70,000 square foot facility. They have now become the dominant tenant down there at the Navy Yard. Anybody who's driven there knows how congested it is. We need to extend the SEPTA subway into the Navy Yard. John Doherty has been leading that charge for at least the last 8 or 10 years. He's gotten a lot of momentum behind it with both state, city, and federal elected officials. It's time. Let's get this done.
I remember that press conference almost like it was yesterday, yet it was, I think, back in October or November of back in 2015 when John Doherty was there, Congressman Brady was there, Pat Toomey was there, and there was a lot of energy and a lot of discussion, J-Doc, about this expansion of a subway into the Navy Yard.
I mean, the Navy Yard itself is a mecca of industry now, and certainly it's you know, you got all kinds of new businesses in there. You got like Frank just said, Jefferson is coming in there. They're not coming in there because it's not blowing up. And the fact of the matter is, the congestion, the traffic, all that, it calls for this project to get started. Now I know John has been lobbying and working extremely hard to get this project going. And if you look at it, not only does it make sense, but the jobs it would create in the process. You're talking about something that
it's not only the jobs that it's going to create. That is one part.
That's one part of it.
It's a big part, but it's also the creation of the work. And Frank,
right.
As we talked about, that's what leads. This creating work is a big funnel, and out of that funnel is the work that's being created and all the other revenue that falls out of it.
That's exactly right, Joe. And this is a win-win. We're talking about 8,000 additional permanent jobs if this goes through, and 3,750 new construction jobs for the multi-year build-out. That was through a PIDC study recently. We're also excited because with President Trump making a pledge to invest in infrastructure, we think this is an ideal scenario that the government should get behind.
It makes it so much more appealing for businesses to want to go there because it's a mecca of industry. I think what is the nearest SEPTA stop is?
So it's about a half mile away.
I mean, and so my point is this: in order for it to get up to speed, in order for it to truly be, a mecca, a full service location, you need to have. You need to have the public transportation go to it.
Well, just to clarify for the listeners and be able to help them understand that what the Jefferson announcement actually means. Jefferson Health expanding services at the Navy Yard, opening a 70,000 plus square foot facility down there to be ready to go by 2018. And Frank, if that's not a significant, hey, it's time.
That's right.
I mean, that's a big shout out with a big megaphone. Hey, it's time. There's commerce down here. There's business down here. There's industry down here. There's people all over the place. It's time for the subway.
You're right, Joe. It's actually become a little satellite city into itself. We've got Tasty Baking there, Acre Shipyard, Urban Outfitters, Heliosphere, which is a major international solar panel manufacturing company, Jefferson Health there. It's time. It's time to get this thing done.
On the big show last week, we heard John Doherty talk about a meeting that he had in New York. It dealt with infrastructure. You mentioned Donald Trump. We were talking about infrastructure prior to the show. When we come back after our first commercial break, we'll bring into the conversation the president of the IBEW Local 98, Brian Burrows, will be along. He'll weigh in on what it means to invest, what it means to create the opportunity to create jobs. All of that on Saturday Night Live with PhillyLabor and John Doherty when we return to Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
Original news stories, podcasts, columns from your favorite hosts, and more. Interact 24/7 at Facebook.com/1210WPHT.
I won't participate on behalf of ourselves here at Local 98 or the Philadelphia Building Trades in conversations that are purely dominated on social issues that don't affect our jobs.
Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. It's Saturday Night Live with PhillyLabor and John Doherty. Frank Keel in the big chair tonight as we come to you here on a Saturday night. Don't forget, coming up at 8 o'clock tonight, 8 to 11, it's the Dan Loney Show right here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. Dan's going to have a political cartoonist on tonight. Should be some good dialogue. Coming up 8 to 11 on the Dan Loney Show. Keep it right here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. Going into the first break or going into the break, we talked about our show last week for just a moment where John Doherty was talking about a meeting that took place in New York that was all about infrastructure. It was all about this generating revenue to get and create infrastructure. Here's some of that audio bite.
Was in New York on Thursday, and so was Sean McGarvey. Sean McGarvey is the president of the National Building Trades, and we will be down in D.C. together with a series of investment people to sit and talk about how we can put this public-private government partnership together. You know, I'm hoping that, you know, we can raise, you know, and we're talking big numbers. We're talking, as you know, they're talking trillions, but we're talking mucho billions around here of unionized pension money, so that we can come in back into the region, you know, and parlay that money, bond that money up, and be able to put the subways into the Navy Yards, fix the bridges that have cracks, and we're looking forward to doing it. It's one of the things that we have in common. There's a lot of things we disagree on, but the things that we have in common, you know, people joke, and as you said last week, play footsie with Trump. I don't play footsies with anybody. I play footsies with my members.
That's John Doherty a week ago talking about this revenue stream that's going to help create and embellish the opportunity to get infrastructure. Joining us now on the 1210 WPHT hotline, president of the IBEW Local 98, Brian Burrows.
Brian, it's Frank. How are you, my friend?
Good, Frank. How are you?
Very good. Brian, let's get right into it. Local 98 is always on the cutting edge of developments that kind of reshape the whole labor movement. Tell the audience why Local 98 got so heavily involved in the Market East project that's reshaping that entire section of Market Street.
Hey, Frank, it started with us a little over 10 years ago, where John had the idea of taking union pension money and investing it in jobs in Philadelphia. And our first job, roughly around 10 years ago, 7th and Chestnut. That was a project that had about $15 million that was short in their financing. We were able to get a mezzanine loan with the particular builder, and that project was done on time with union people, with our money. After we left that project, we did a project with the Buck Foundation out of Chicago at 21st and Chestnut. We were equity partners in that. It was a $90 million project. It was a project done by the Philadelphia Building Trades. It was a project that came out of the ground, new out of the ground. That project was done 2 months before the scheduling date. It was done under budget, and there was no recordable accidents on that particular project, all with the high-quality craftsmanship of the Philadelphia Building Trades.
Brian, that's awesome. Explain, though, I mean, people don't understand. Unions like 98, whichever, carpenters, bricklayers, you build things. But why this new formula where you're actually investing? What's the benefit to unions for doing this?
Frank, to be honest with you, pension funds need two things. They need man hours to fund it, and they need returns. So why not invest in our area, put our people to work on those particular projects, and to get good returns on our pension money? And that's what we did. If you look at the project at 12th and Market, it used to be called the old Girard Estate. It was a project that was stale for a number of years. John, through his wisdom, negotiated with the city and the different builders, and we brought IBEW pension money to that development. As you know, right now, the first phase of that is on the south side where I said 11th and Chestnut. It's a 21-story building. There's roughly, on that phase, 240 units. They just signed Iron Hill Brewery, which will be the major tenant on the first floor. Within the last week, phase 2 of that project, we're able to secure another $57 million. It'll have the second residential towers. It'll be 22 stories, and it'll be another 240 units. When that project got done, or was actually in the phase of that, you had the old family court, which backed up to that particular project. And, of course, family court built a new project. So since our project got started, family court decided, hey, let's fix it up. So in the meantime, Mom's Organic Market moved into there, and the upper floors are all office spaces. Since that project got started, it's like a domino effect. All of a sudden, the gallery decided, hey, let's re-renovate, okay? And it's all because we're one of the cornerstones to the convention center. And let me tell you, with the new convention center, with the new work rules, it's a gem. One of the biggest gems we have in the city.
Brian Burrows, president of IBEW Local 98, joining us here on Saturday Night Live with PhillyLabor, right here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
Brian J. Doc, I was just talking to Frank during the break, talking about Local 98 is not old school. It's a very cutting-edge union. And to kind of get the scope of this, as a longtime union member, it seems like you're almost taking you're creating your own destiny. You're investing in your own workers. You're procuring your own work and your own jobs. Are the other unions in the city following foot in something like this?
Hey Joe, to be honest with you, since John has taken over the building trades a little over a year ago, I think he's changing the atmosphere in the Philadelphia building trades. We are going to, in the next week or so, going to be down in Washington with the other national labor unions to try to secure some private venture capital, okay? Meaning if we can all put so much money into a fund, okay? Now, if President Trump is good on his word, he said that he's going to invest billions of dollars in the infrastructure. He needs not only private money, besides public money, he needs a lot of private money. So hopefully we'll be on the cutting edge and using our pension money to put our members to work throughout the country.
Brian, are there any other projects such as East Market that you can tell us about that 98 is investing in?
Frank, there's a project on Sampson Street. It's pension money. Again, it's another high-rise that's going up. It's in the ground. We broke ground a little over 10 months ago on it. Again, it's all being done by Philadelphia Building Trades, a very successful project.
Brian Burrows again joining us. Brian, thanks so much for being a part of the big show tonight. The thing that strikes me, Brian, when I listen as a listener and I listen to all of the different opportunities that are being created by the investment, it's not just union workers going to work.
Right.
It's an investment that, as you said, snowballs and creates an overflow of money, of opportunity, of jobs, of process, of everything that falls out of the lip of this big funnel that you're fueling from the bottom.
Right. Krause, to be honest with you, John has always been on the cutting edge, okay? And now that he is in charge of the building trades, I'm pretty sure that, the building trades are going to come around and people are really going to see how profitable it is, not only for their membership, but also their pension funds.
Brian, it's almost like you're investing in yourself. And, the unions these days, I read something, certainly in we're going to have Bill Ross on from the Newspaper Guild, so I'm going to pepper him for a second. But some of the reporters were breaking them on us about targeting funds and investing in ourselves. And this takes it to a whole new level. Do you think the general public this is foreign to them? They just can't get used to unions being high tech?
Yeah, I think so, Joe. To be honest, there's, billions and billions of dollars of pension dollars that are out there, So let's not use them for projects that benefit our members. I mean, listen, that's what we're here. We're here to put our members to work. So why not use their own money to put them to work?
That's Brian Burrows joining us. He's the president of IBEW Local 98. Frank, you got one more?
I do. Hey, Brian, I was telling these guys about your background and your short-lived but illustrious career in the minor leagues of the Baltimore Orioles system.
I love it. Brian, please share it. I love it, man.
That's years ago. We don't worry about things in the past. We only thing worry about in the future. And listen, and just be sure, I know Frank mentioned a little bit about John, I mean, tell you. He is an unbelievable person. I've known him and his wife for over 35 years, okay? And he's going through some tough times right now, And, all the prayers and anything we can do for John. I mean, he loves the city, and, my heart goes out to him right now.
Well said, Brian.
All right, it's good stuff from Brian Burrows joining us here on Saturday Night Live with PhillyLabor and John Doherty on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. Brian, enjoy the rest of the evening. We'll put the conversation about you playing baseball up on the shelf. We'll save it for another day. Well done, sir.
Okay, Krause, and it's always good to spend a Saturday night with Krause, Keel, and Joe Doc.
I love it. Good stuff. We're all presented by Weinerman Pain and Wellness, serious doctors for serious injuries. Call them at 215-988-9503. When we come back after our second break on the big show, Bill Ross from the Newspaper Guild. He joins us after the break.
Radio.com.
I believe there's room, okay, for the national building trades, the local building trades, that have partnerships with the Trump administration as it pertains to energy, as it pertains to infrastructure, as it pertains to the undocumented worker.
Shout out to media out in Delaware County and a shout out to A Taste of Italy. For tonight's treat, Pop's Italian Hoagie, courtesy of Frank Keel, sitting in for John Doherty. It's Saturday Night Live with PhillyLabor and John Doherty right here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
All right, Krause, for our listeners to get connected to PhillyLabor Radio, follow us on Twitter at MyPhillyLabor.
All right, good stuff, J-Doc. Stay with us every Saturday night. We're live from 7 to 8 here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. Bill Ross from the Newspaper Guild dialing us in tonight on a Saturday night. Billy, a good Saturday night, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks, Joe. How are you guys?
All good on this end.
All right,
Bill. Frank Keel here. I'm a big fan. I hope you're doing well. Let's get right into it. Donald Trump has declared war on the mainstream media.
Uh-oh.
My first question, Bill, how in the world are you guys dealing with this administration?
Well, yeah, thanks, Frank, and you are correct. Clearly, the president and his administration have declared war. During the campaign, he urged people to commit acts of violence, against people that didn't agree with him. And if you ask me, that's a dictator in the making. We're having a rough time because readers think it's okay to now attack the media the same way the president and his staff is attacking the media.
It's dangerous, Bill. I found this quote from a Washington Post editor. I want your reaction to it. He said, listen, the more the administration yells at us, the calmer our presentation should be. Do you agree with that approach?
I do. And I think, it's clear, the president seems to be stuck in quicksand. And the more he squirms, the more he sinks. His tweets and his excuses are just insane. And the more that the press continues to look into this, we have reporters at the Philadelphia Inquirer and Daily News, Newspaper Guild reporters at the Washington Post and the New York Times. I think we're on something bigger than Watergate, much bigger than Watergate.
Really?
Well,
I do.
Bill, that begs this question. Does the administration's attitude towards the mainstream media make you guys want to dig even harder to unearth things?
Absolutely. And one, subscriptions to the print product at our newspapers in Philadelphia are going up. The New York Times subscriptions have gone through the roof, believe it or not. And the New York Times is spending $5 million just to cover this administration. So, when you see, Carl Bernstein on the news every night talking, there is something here. And this Russian connection, I'm willing to gamble on it, that this is going to be the undoing of this president.
Billy, let me push back on you a little bit just to get some counter and to get a reaction from you.
Right.
Should we even care about Russia? John Doherty on this very show a week ago was very clear. His workers aren't asking him about Russia. They don't care about Russia. They care about jobs. They care about the economy, and then care about health care. Thoughts?
It's a good point. Krause. I disagree. I think we should care about Russia. I think if it wasn't for the reporting of our members around the country, the Mike Flynn situation, I don't think would have been exposed the way it is, and it's continued daily. If you read the reports daily on Mike Flynn and where it's possibly going, I feel like we have had a spy on the president's, in the president's cabinet. That's what it looks like to me. But our members, of course, are concerned about jobs and health care, just like everybody else. But our reporters are dogged, and they go after the story, and that's why the Philadelphia Inquirer and Daily News have won 20 Pulitzer Prizes. And I'm pretty confident they're going to win one this year as well.
Bill, talk about accountability in Donald Trump. Even throughout his entire campaign, I've never seen anything like it. And even the media is doing everything they can to keep him accountable. And yet he seems to have, whatever he seems to be able to say whatever he wants to say, and he's not accountable ever.
Correct. It's frightening. I have members that work at the White House. We have a group called YC.News. It's a group of college students, young constituents of Philadelphia that we represent. They have direct access. They're there at the daily news briefings with Sean Spicer, and they've never seen anything like it. The other press that's there can't believe the way they try to spin things. And, I'm not so concerned that Trump is on Twitter. I'm concerned that he has the nuclear codes. I'd rather take away the nuclear codes than his Twitter account.
I hear you. Bill, what do you make of the whole fake news phenomenon that he seems to be creating? And how do you combat that? How do you make the public aware that, no, they're the ones that are spinning garbage?
Correct.
So how do you combat that?
Well, by just searching for the truth. As the Inquirer's new slogan is, the truth is hard to find. It's there. And, the more the reporting is accurate, which I think most of it is. Listen, there's always going to be some mistakes, and the press has to own up if they make a mistake. But Trump continues to basically lie, and his lies just seem to be getting bigger and bigger. And he can blame the media and call reporters out. We have reporters at the Inquirer and Daily News now. Readers are posting their home phone numbers and their home addresses on the internet. These are reporters that write, about the president, and their information is being posted by readers.
Wow.
We've never seen anything like this. Yesterday, if you read the story about a Newsweek reporter, somebody sent him an email knowing the guy is an epileptic with an attachment. When he opened it, it was a strobe light that caused the guy to have an epileptic fit.
My God.
Yeah, this is just unheard of, and we just have to keep at it because I'm convinced this is a good time for newspapers. Industry-wise,
Bill Ross, the executive director of the Newspaper Guild, joining us here on Saturday Night Live with PhillyLabor and John Doherty. Of course, the story by David K. Johnston earlier in the week, I guess it was, when the 2005 tax return created all of the hullabaloo and all of the and all of the conversation about it. Care, Bill? Did you care that his 2005 2 pages of his tax return were published or were put out?
Joe, I'm thrilled that they're finally put out. David K. Johnston, of course, is a former Newspaper Guild member. He won a Pulitzer Prize at the New York Times. He worked at the Philadelphia Inquirer. He's a tax expert. He's written books on it, and he's written books on Donald Trump. And he's covered Trump for probably 30 years, going way back. So the way they broke it, Rachel Maddow obviously had it. I was excited. A little disappointing. I thought she'd have a lot more, but it clearly showed he paid taxes, and I believe the White House leaked that document, to David K. Johnston, and that's how it got out there.
Now, Bill, we're talking about it. You mentioned this Twitter. Tell me what the scuttlebutt is. I know you don't really care about it, but it is a problem when he targets people and as a president says the stupidest things imaginable if he doesn't agree with you.
Right. Well, I mean, you saw how he targeted the president of, I guess it was United Auto Workers local, and when he targets businesses, I think he could cause the stock market to go crazy. It's just we've never seen anything like this, and I think as the president, he needs to be a little more controlled, and his staff needs to control what he's doing if they can.
Bill Ross, Executive Director of the Newspaper Guild. Bill, if anything that I'll leave you with this, if anything that Donald Trump does in office inspires those around the Delaware Valley to buy a subscription to the Inquirer, the Daily News, I'll live with a little bit of the chaos. I'm a newspaper guy, true and true, will always be, and I thank you very much for coming into the program, or for being a part of the program tonight here on Saturday Night Live.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, guys.
Good stuff. That's Bill Ross, the Executive Director of the Newspaper Guild. Joining us here with Frank Keel and J-Doc in the studio, I'm Joe Krause on Saturday Night Live with PhillyLabor and John Doherty. When we come back after the commercial break, Bobby Henon will join us. We'll revisit the conversation at the Navy Yard. Back in a moment.
In service to humanity.
Weekdays noon till 3 on Talk Radio 1210.
I've been coming out of step with them guys, okay? And I was a treasure of the Democratic Party. I've been a loyal Democrat my whole life. But I've told people, and it hasn't, like I told you, it just didn't resonate with this election. If you look at the last few years, I've been telling people we have to become a little bit more individual. We have to be more of our own brand. We have to do a better job at becoming a business.
Back, everyone, to Saturday Night Live with PhillyLabor and John Doherty on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. J-Doc.
So we're
you all right over there?
I'm good.
I'm looking for a social media hit. What are you doing over there?
Listen, if you want to connect to PhillyLabor, go to www.phillylabor.com. Sign up for our email list. Get alerts every week. You'll be tied in.
J-Doc, that was horrible.
You
were
terrible.
sleeping over there.
I was not sleeping.
Let's quickly bring
I was thinking about having another hoagie if I can get that hoagie off.
Let's quickly bring
in a hoagie coma.
Let's quickly bring in our guest, Councilman Bobby Henon, joining us here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. Bobby, welcome to the show, sir.
Hey,
Councilman.
guys, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Great to hear from you, Councilman. Thanks for calling in. Bobby, we discussed earlier kind of where we've been with this whole idea of extending the subway into the Navy Yard. How do we get the ball across the goal line now? I know you've been intimately involved over the years.
I have, and it's John Doherty's vision. I mean, when back in 2008, and if I'm rehashing some of the conversation you already had, the economy wasn't doing too well. So, we, John Doherty, and, some of that vision with the extension of the Navy, you don't wait for things to happen. You make it happen. And it was the constant push to try to put people back to work and create economic opportunities and economic development for those who can. We have, with the extension of the Navy Yard, 1.5 miles. Right, the Navy Yard has a feasibility study. It has an economic growth plan. We are about 11,000 people who work there, and we can get to 30,000. But it will take the big dig, like Boston had, right here in the city of Philadelphia, and put people to work. And that's creating our own economy. And we have a history of doing that. Instead of waiting for people to just say, hey, this is what we want you to do, this is how we'd like you to work, we just go out and do it. I mean, John went down to D.C., spoke with Senator Casey, Senator Toomey. There's a bipartisan infrastructure plan and development that's going to create thousands of jobs in the short term and $30,000 or 30,000 jobs in the long term. Huge economic development.
So we know we're close, Bobby. What's the key? Who needs to step up? What needs to happen?
Look, I think that I'm going to punt right back to John Doherty. Right, putting a coalition and a team together with the building trades. Right, having them see the benefit for our workers, for our health care, for our pension, right, and making sure that their families can stay not just in Philadelphia and in the region. I think the key is continue to develop the relationship that we have with the National Building Trades and President Trump. The President has signaled that he wants a partnership with the National Building Trades, and no better opportunity than to point to infrastructure right here in our own city of Philadelphia, to put some of these resources so we can have over a $5 billion economic impact right here in our region. And I think that relationship, if it's serious, can develop and respond to the needs of this area by extending our subway into the Navy Yard. I think it's perfect. I think it's well it's well on its way as far as these relationships. And our U.S. senators, our own local Congressman Brady, as well as Congressman Schumer, I mean, they all are familiar with what kind of revitalization we could do to that 1,200-acre parcel right there in the Navy Yard. It's perfect. It's right, and the time is right now.
Bobby, do you think that certainly businesses that are coming, you've been huge when it comes to manufacturing, want to bring that back to Philadelphia. Do you think a revitalized Navy Yard, a subway system that goes in there will make businesses that are considering Philadelphia, will it be much more appealing to them?
It would absolutely be appealing. And, take for example, you have Urban Outfitters. Hundreds and hundreds of millennials are working down there. Their business has expanded exponentially. You have millennials that are taking public transportation. They are taking their bikes. Taking public transportation and infrastructure has been neglected for many, many years. And I think the President of the United States now, Donald Trump, has indicated to the United States that infrastructure is a priority, and this could be it. I mean, you have the Sixers down there. You have Jefferson Health. You have Liberty Property Trust. You have the old Tasty Bake. I mean, they're making things down there. You have solar. People are making things down there. They are researching down there with research and development. And there's much, much more we could do. And the missing key, the link, in my opinion, and of course John Doherty's opinion, and it was he who actually came out first and encouraged a study by the DVPRC, is the extension of the subway, 1.5 miles, right, will give people the confidence, give the businesses the confidence to invest in the city of Philadelphia, all right, because they can't do it without the people. And if the people can't get there, then their business plan for success doesn't work. It's a perfect formula, and it starts with continuing to push on a national level, locally, to extend the Navy Yard. They're the subway to the Navy Yard.
Thanks, Bobby. Keep pushing it. We need it.
You got it, fellas. Thank you. And by the way, there was a comment mentioned about the Inquirer. We love the Inquirer and reading Krause. Tonight, it's all about radio. So let's keep sending that message to the audience and expand that and keep our middle class working.
Good stuff from Councilman Bobby Henon, checking in on Saturday Night Live with PhillyLabor and John Doherty here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. J-Doc, 15 seconds for your recap.
No, just a great show. Glad to hear from Councilman Henon. A lot going on. One thing we wanted to point out: the school district is going to be hiring 1,000 new teachers.
It was a big story. Good story.
It
we
was,
didn't get to it.
and I'd love to see them get a contract. That would be the only thing better than that.
All right, Frank Keel, one more Inside Baseball. Have one over there?
Just once again, guys, if you could please, anyone out there who knows and loves John Doherty, keep him and his family in your thoughts and prayers. They're in a really serious situation.
All right, well said. From Frank Keel, sitting in for John Doherty tonight. And, of course, J-Doc, who went to sleep for just a second tonight at the controls. But I thank you, J-Doc, as well, for Tony behind the glass. Tony, well done for David Dorenzo for coming in on his Saturday night. David, thank you very much. And, of course, for a taste of Italy, Pop's Italian Hoagie. On behalf of everyone listening into the program, I'm Joe Krause. We'll see you next time.
It's not close, and Brunson throws it up, and it's nowhere close, and the Wisconsin Badgers have won it. New York City, the Badgers are coming your way.
This program is a paid commercial announcement and in no way represents the views of WPHT or its management.